Congressman Andrew Clyde. He's a member of the House Budget and House Appropriations Committees. Welcome, Congressman. You and Chip Roy of Texas, Josh Breachin of Oklahoma, Ralph Norman of South Carolina decided last week that the bill was too costly. What changed in the bill that pushed you not to say yay, but to say present in order to let it move forward?
Well, thank you. I appreciate being on Fox Business this afternoon. Well, we made some great progress over the weekend in negotiations. I mean, we had work requirements in the bill not starting until 2029. That's 4 years from now. That's just not acceptable. Nobody understands that makes any sense. And then you have the Green New Deal subsidies that the president absolutely declared he wanted ended, and those subsidies, we're only dealing with about 50% of those subsidies as of right now in the bill. So we worked on that and made that a little better, but we've got some work yet to do. I think we've got Medicaid yet to work on to make it better. And think about this. You know, when we're dealing with Medicaid, which is a state program, but it's funded with matching funds from the federal government, on the vulnerable population where you have the aged, you have pregnant women, you have children, low income, disabled. You know, the federal government spends about $1.33 for every $1 that the state spends. But yet on this expansion population, which is absolutely bankrupting our country, the federal government spends $9, all right, for every $1 that the state spends. That's 7 times the amount being spent on able-bodied folks, adults that refuse to work versus the most vulnerable population. That is simply not acceptable. That needs to be changed, and we've got to preserve Medicaid for the most vulnerable, but not, you know, we need to get the non-working folks working, and that's what we're fighting for right now.
All certainly important things to fight for, but Congressman, this bill, according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, estimates that this tax bill, even as it has stood at the moment, could add anywhere from $3.3 trillion to $5 trillion over 10 years to the deficit. The whole point of what the president had said and promised was that it would bring down the deficit. And obviously that doesn't appear to be happening. And you could argue that, sure, you know, you give people a tax cut, they'll spend more into the economy, but that's not a guarantee, is it?
Well, I think you're proving our point right there. You know, we're fighting to make this bill more fiscally responsible so that we don't end up over the 10-year budget window actually increasing the deficit and therefore further increasing our debt. But that's why we are in negotiations right now with the White House, with the leadership, to make sure that this is the most fiscally responsible bill for which we can get 218 votes. And I think that's worth it. I think the American people, that's where the American people are, and we're gonna hold the line on fiscal responsibility here, because our country is in dire straits when it comes to spending. You know, it's inevitable that Congress spends the money up front, and yet the savings or the spending cuts always happen, you know, later. And as it looks right now, that's the way it is, and that doesn't work either.
I watched you on the floor of the House on the 16th of May, and you said this is a once-in-a-decade opportunity to right-size this government spending and to make it transformative, and, quote, unfortunately, that fails to do that. What will get you to a yes when it comes to a vote on the House floor, the full House floor? And are you ready to stand up against what could be withering criticism from President Trump if you hold the line to what you feel is most important here, and that's fiscally responsible spending?
Well, what will get me to yes is that what you just said, fiscally responsible spending. This is a once-in-a-decade, you know, maybe once-in-a-generation opportunity when we have the trifecta. We can do this with all Republican votes. But, you know, if it can't be done now, then when? You know, if we're not the ones to do it, then who? That's just the whole point. We have got to be fiscally responsible. We've got to hold the line, you know, regardless of the you know, criticism that we get, and regardless of where it comes from, we just have to hold the line for the American people. And you know, I believe the president is there too, because he has called for a balanced budget. We are going to do as much as we can to take the level of spending and move it toward a balanced budget.
Yes, and he's also called for a lot of tax cuts on tips and tax cuts on and no taxes on Social Security. So again, we're going to watch this every step of the way because it matters to CEOs, business people, our investor audience. Thank you for coming on First on Fox Business. Something tells me we'll be speaking again soon.
Thank you. Great to be on Fox Business.
Thank you.